Imagine soaring above a vast dry desert. Sand stretches endlessly beneath you. The landscape sun-bleached and cracked, and then suddenly you spot it. A giant monkey, etched into the ground itself. Perfectly shaped, massive, and ancient. No, you're not hallucinating. You've just discovered the Nazca Lines. These mysterious geoglyphs span across southern Peru. They were created by a culture that flourished over 2,000 years ago. There are hundreds of them, razor-sharp lines that go for miles, massive geometric patterns, and over 70 figures of animals, humans, and plants. Some as big as football fields. From high above, you'll see a hummingbird mid-flight, a spider with outstretched legs, and yes, a giant monkey with a curly tail just chilling in the sand like it owns the place. But why are they here? Who made them? And most importantly, was this the world's first case of a bored teenager with too much time and a shovel? For centuries, the local people of Peru knew the Nazca Lines were there, but for the rest of the world, they were invisible, hidden in plain sight. That changed in the 1920s, when a few daring pilots soared above the Peruvian desert in their rickety biplanes. As they looked down, they saw massive shapes etched into the ground, animals, lines, and spirals stretching across the arid landscape. At first, they couldn't believe their eyes. Who would make giant figures you could only see from the sky in a time before flight existed? The news spread fast, and with it, a flood of theories. Some researchers believe the lines formed a walkable calendar, a giant sundial of sorts, tracking solstices and seasons. Others suggested they were offerings to the gods, meant to be seen by divine eyes looking down from the heavens. And then, of course, came the aliens. A German author in the 1960s looked up at the straight, smooth lines and said, "Aha, clearly this is a landing strip for aliens." Because clearly, if you don't understand something, it must be aliens. So how do you carve a giant monkey into the earth and make it last thousands of years? Surprisingly, it's not as impossible as it sounds. The Nazca Desert has a thin, dark top layer of iron-rich rock. Just beneath it is a light-colored sand, kind of like a prehistoric scratchboard. All the Nazca people had to do was scrape away that top dark layer, revealing the pale soil underneath. The result? Massive high-contrast figures that practically glow when viewed from above. They didn't use bulldozers or lasers, just wooden tools, ropes, and simple planning grids. And yet, some of these lines stretched for over 10 miles without curving off course. Not bad for people without drones or Google Earth. But here's the weirdest part. The dry, windless climate of the Nazca region actually helped preserve these designs. In fact, the desert is so stable, some lines have barely faded after 2,000 years. Which is great for archaeology, but semi-terrifying if you've ever written anything embarrassing in wet cement. Some researchers even recreated the process using sticks and rope. Verdict? No aliens required, just a lot of patience. If you were to fly over the Nazca Desert, you'd spot more than just straight lines. You'd see a zoo drawn into the sand, only this one's visible from 1,000 feet in the air. There's a hummingbird with wings stretched wide, a spider with impossibly long legs, a whale, a condor, a dog, a lizard, a cat, and even what looks like a tree, if that tree had been drawn by someone with a really long rake. In total, there are more than 70 figures, ranging from about 15 to 1,200 feet long. That's longer than the Empire State Building, lying on its side. These shapes are huge. The monkey, over 300 feet long. The condor, about the length of a jumbo jet. It's like someone said, let's draw stuff only aliens can see. And there are the geometric shapes, spirals, trapezoids, arrows, and zigzags that stretch across the desert like a massive ancient blueprint. Some figures are graceful and elegant, others a little abstract, like ancient Peru's version of modern art. One of the most famous is known simply as the astronaut. It's a humanoid figure with big eyes and a raised hand, staring up at the sky. Some say it's a god, others say it suspiciously looks like E.T. Either way, it's hard to look out without asking, who is this for, and who exactly was meant to see it? Whoever the intended audience was, gods, spirits, or something else entirely, one thing is certain. These lines weren't random. Someone carved them into the earth with purpose. But who were these people? and what drove them to turn the desert into a canvas. The Nazca Lines are believed to have been created by the Nazca culture, a pre-Incan civilization that thrived in southern Peru between 200 BCE and 600 CE. These weren't sky-gazing mystics or accidental artists. They were engineers, astronomers, and farmers, known for intricate pottery, underground aqueducts, and apparently giant desert murals. As for why they made the lines, that's where things get interesting. And then there's the theory that never goes out of style: aliens. Popularized by author Erich von Däniken in the 1960s, the idea was that these geometric runways were landing strips for ancient astronauts. Because clearly, if something's big and mysterious, it must be aliens with exceptional parking skills. Most scientists, of course, roll their eyes, but still, the question lingers. Why design something that only makes sense from above in a time when flight didn't exist? Whether they were messages to the gods, navigational tools, or sacred maps, the truth remains a 2,000-year-old riddle written in dust and stone. If there was one person who believed the Nazca Lines were messages to the stars, it was Maria Reich, a German mathematician and archaeologist who dedicated her life to the desert. She arrived in Peru in the 1930s, and once she saw the Nazca Lines, that was it. She was hooked. While others saw a weird collection of shapes, Reich saw patterns, cosmic alignments, a giant astronomical calendar carved into the earth. She spent decades mapping, measuring, and protecting the lines, often living alone in a small hut in the desert, armed with a broom, a notebook, and unstoppable determination. Reich believed that many of the lines aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and key stars. The hummingbird, it might point to the December solstice. A straight line, it could track the rising of a specific star. She proposed that the Nazca people use the geoglyphs as a kind of giant observatory, not just to worship the heavens, but to track planting seasons and rainfall, both crucial for survival in a desert where water was life. And while later researchers would challenge some of her specific alignments, there is no denying her impact. Maria Reich was a reason the world took the Nazca Lines seriously. Thanks to her efforts, they were declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. Not bad for someone who started with just a compass and a dream. She was called the Lady of the Lines, and if the Nazca Lines really were a calendar for the stars, then she was their most passionate timekeeper. Maria Reich's star-based theory was captivating, poetic even, but not everyone was buying tickets to the cosmic calendar. Modern archaeologists and astronomers have pointed out that some of the alignments she proposed aren't all that precise. When you have hundreds of lines crisscrossing a desert, some of them are bound to line up with something in the sky, just by chance. Others argue that Reich may have been seeing patterns where none existed, a case of good old-fashioned pareidolia, the human brain's tendency to find meaning in the random. And while she was brilliant and deeply committed, Reich also worked almost alone, with limited tools and an emotional connection to the theory she loved. That passion, inspiring, but to skeptics, it was also a scientific red flag. Even so, many researchers admit the idea that the Nazca look to the sky isn't outlandish. After all, ancient cultures all over the world used astronomy in their rituals, farming, and mythology. So maybe Maria wasn't exactly wrong. She was looking at the right stars, just at the wrong angle. Fast forward to today, and the Nazca Lines are no longer a mystery only pilots can glimpse. Thanks to drones, satellites, and even artificial intelligence, researchers are exploring the desert from angles that Maria Reich could only dream of. Drones zoom low and slow, capturing stunning high-resolution images that reveal new geoglyphs hidden beneath the sands, some even too faint to spot from a plane. AI algorithms scan the landscape, looking for patterns humans might miss, leading to surprising discoveries of shapes that challenge everything we thought we knew about the Nazca culture. But it's not all good news. The desert is harsh, and the lines are fragile. Erosion, climate change, and human activity threaten to erase these ancient drawings forever. In recent years, careless off-road vehicles and even vandalism have caused damage. That's why preservation is a race against time. Scientists, local communities, and governments are working together to protect this 2,000-year-old masterpiece, ensuring future generations can still look up and wonder. The Nazca Lines continue to captivate, a mysterious message etched in the earth, waiting patiently for us to decode their secrets. One infamous moment in 2014, Greenpeace activists accidentally damaged a geoglyph during a protest. Oops. Thankfully, the site is now protected. UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site in 1994, but preserving drawings in a giant sandbox, not easy. So after all that, giant desert drawings, star maps, water prayers, and even alien landing strips, what do you think? Were the Nazca ancient astronomers, devout desert artists, or just really dedicated planners of prehistoric crop calendars? Maybe there were all those things, or maybe none. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the swirling desert dust, just out of reach, teasing us like the lines themselves. And here's the thing about mysteries like the Nazca Lines. They remind us of how little we still know about our past. How cultures we'll never meet have created things that still baffle us today. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the world's first giant prank. A massive desert doodle that keeps us looking up and wondering. Either way, it's a reminder that sometimes the questions are more fascinating than the answers. So next time you're flying over a desert, or even just staring at the stars, think about the Nazca Lines. What messages might still be waiting to be read, and what mysteries will future generations uncover, looking back at us? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your weirdest and wildest theories. Whatever the truth is, the Nazca Lines show us one thing. Humans, and maybe a few sneaky aliens, have always loved a good mystery and a bit of drama. If you've had fun on this ancient art adventure, please smash that like button. Subscribe for some more weird history and share with a curious friend. See you next time. Keep your eyes in the skies or the ground if you're flying over southern Peru.